More pressure for Danielle Hunter? The answer is absolutely yes. Has Nick Caserio even really had any pressure yet? We'll get into that. Plus, guys that are looking for revenge the most with the 2025 schedule. Let's feast.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the Locker Room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey. Locker Room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize. Every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked.
Pressure. We've talked a lot about Texans that are under pressure in 2025. And obviously, C.J. Stroud's the one that gets mentioned the most. He plays the most important position. He really holds the key to the ultimate success of this football team, and that's kind of the responsibility that comes with, as he calls it, the man in the arena. We've talked about a lot of other guys as well. Obviously, D'Amico Ryans has to figure some stuff out. He just fired his buddy Bobby Slowick.
Damn it, Bobby.
And he's got a new offensive coordinator in Nick Caley. So he has a second offensive coordinator in 3 seasons. So there's a little bit of pressure there to figure that out, as well as figuring out the offensive line. So the guys that we anticipate are going to be under a lot of pressure, it's very, very clear. But there's someone who I think, and there's really 2 people that really need to be at least the case needs to be presented that these guys are going to be under more pressure. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans digital content. Shout out to everyone for joining the stream. Shout out to everyone for riding along on SNL this week with myself and Cody Stutz, which you should subscribe to on all podcast platforms, as well as right here. Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter had a hell of a season last year. Danielle Hunter is a really good player on this team. But when we talk about great players on the Texans and we talk about breakout years and we talk about big seasons, we don't mention Danielle Hunter as much. And maybe that's just because he's Old Faithful. Danielle Hunter has been one of the most steady edge guys in this league for an extended period of time now. And he doesn't get the notoriety. He doesn't get the respect that a lot of these guys do. And he just goes about his business. And everything that Danielle Hunter can control, he controls well. He's probably one of the most he's one of the guys that's under probably the most ideal routines that you want your football players to be under. His diet is ridiculous, his routine, his mannerisms, etc. It's probably what they want in the building, which is probably why, despite the fact you had Danielle Hunter under contract for one more season, it's probably why Nick Caserio decided that he was going to give Danielle Hunter an extension, despite the fact he didn't have to. And Danielle Hunter right now is 30 years old. He just turned 30 years old. And at the age of 30, I know it's looked at as just one season, but it can come tumbling down quickly. And Danielle Hunter heading into the second year of the contract that Caserio gave him, with 1 year still remaining, they decided to give him an extension that puts him, and it was a 1-year extension, but it paid him as a top 3 guy in this league based on annual value. So it put him up there with the Max Crosbys, who he actually outperformed last year, in large part because of injuries, despite the initial Pro Bowl selection, and right up there with the Myles Garretts. So they didn't have to do that, and they did that. So now what happens is, or what should happen is, you got to look at this and say, not only, it's not just about Danielle Hunter being solid and steady, which is what we've become accustomed to. Now he's got to have a season where he justifies on the north end of 30. He's going to turn 31 during the season. He's got to have a season where he justifies being one of the 3 highest paid edge guys in the entire NFL. And I'm not sitting here saying that that's something that you dismiss happening, and that's not something that can happen, but that increases the pressure. That increases the pressure. And some would say, was it really necessary for Nick Caserio to do that? Now, they've set a precedent here where you're not going to play out the final year of their contract. Danielle Hunter's played out the final year of his contract. He's done it in Minnesota, I think, a couple times. But here, that's not the case. And this isn't even mentioning that you have Will Anderson, who's going to be eligible for his extension after this year. You have him and CJ Stroud eligible as well. So it's the hey, he's solid. This is good. You know, you're not Will Anderson's on his rookie deal, and you have Danielle Hunter doing his thing. Now you need Danielle Hunter at 31 years old to go out there and justify being one of the 3 highest paid. And maybe it'll be probably top 6, whatever. I think Aiden Hutchinson's probably going to get his bread. I anticipate him being up there. But top 6 or whatever bread. Now, maybe he wouldn't have accepted the 1-year deal after this season. Maybe he wouldn't have been worth a 1-year deal or this much of a commitment. And there's a lot of things that can happen at the age of 31 in this game. And Nick Caserio decided to do that. And as a result, the names that we usually discuss when it comes to pressure, they're still there. I think Danielle Hunter needs to creep up on the list. There were a couple games last year where, he kind of disappeared a little bit. Couple games. Still solid. A lot of times the advanced stats, they looked a lot better than when you were actually watching the game. But there's some pressure on Danielle Hunter, and it increases significantly because of what Nick Caserio decided to do. Now, I do have another question about Nick Caserio here in the locker room. HDAV Traveler, Austin Jack on the super chat. You ain't never hate. Swarm says, "Evening, Landry and friends. Let's hope no mute button problems tonight." Yeah, I went with the Scott Hall stick mic earlier today. And I got my mute buttons mixed up on SNL, but it kind of happens. Shout out to Marcus. He says he just got done working out. And he stays working out every day. Okay, you and Danielle Hunter probably get along. Cebu says, "I'm not too worried about Hunter for whatever reason. I feel like he's been productive when healthy his whole career." JJ also likes his game. Yeah, there's nothing to not like. It's just when you get to 31 years old and you're already the highest paid free agent that the Texans have ever given, it just seems like, is it necessary to do this? How much more would the value go up? It's kind of the same argument that you have when the Petrie thing gets brought up. Did he not have to, could he have not earned it? Same thing with Titus Howard, and same thing with some of the other contracts that Nick Caserio has handed out. And I think Nick Caserio might be in kind of unfamiliar territory as well. I'll tell you why in a sec, but first let's ask this question. Is Nick Caserio bad at negotiating contracts? Or is he just negotiating in a different world where he has all these guys on rookie deals and he's a little bit reckless? I say that because of the text that Mike Meltzer sent me where he said Nico Collins' agent must feel like a rube given the fact that he got a quality, fair contract from Nick Caserio, which doesn't happen very often. And the examples that were given to me from Meltzer, shout out to Mike Meltzer, friend of the show, were Tunsil deal, the Shaq Mason extension, the Titus Howard extension, Derek Stingley, $5 million more without Sauce Gardner even getting his contract, the Danielle. Is Nick Caserio bad at contracts? And the answer can be yes, and there's not as much of a consequence at this point in the process with where the Texans are. But the pressure is going to increase and the budget's going to get a little bit tighter once you are paying these elite players the way that they're going to be paid, and they're going to warrant being paid, rightfully so. You can be financially irresponsible when you have a lot of disposable income and there's no consequence, really, for it. I mean, there is consequence. You could probably do a better job managing the cap and improving the overall quality of the roster, but you know what I mean. There's a little bit more margin for error when it comes to the way that Caserio is playing right now. And quite frankly, I think that Nick Caserio has legit pressure right now. I don't question what Nick Caserio has done and the job that he's done with the rebuild. And I know if you compare what the Texans were when he got here to where they are now, it's great. But let's be honest, they were able to stockpile assets and there was no pressure of winning. When you're the GM of a team and you can go up in front of the fan base and have the support of ownership and say process over results and it makes sense, that's great. It's the right play. And it's the way that it's a great world to live in as long as you have the job security. Where GMs lose their job is when the expectations increase and when winning a championship is really the ultimate goal. And they'll say it's the ultimate goal, but it's the ultimate realistic goal on what you want to see. That's when GMs lose their jobs. It's not when you're able to trade Deshaun Watson because you have no choice and you get all that draft equity. Anyone in this chat could have drafted CJ Stroud. Y'all could have used that extra draft equity and traded for Will Anderson. You could have hired D'Amico Ryans with all the assets. This is where it gets difficult. And that's going to be where we're really going to see what's going on with Caserio. I'm not sitting here saying that Nick Caserio has done a bad job. As I said previously, Nick Caserio has done an awesome job with where they are, but it's been low pressure. Don't get that twisted. It's been low pressure. Just watch the Denver Nuggets force a game 7. And I know this is a cross-sport comparison. Daryl Morey, shout out to Daryl Morey. I know he likes the cross-racial and he likes the cross-sport comparisons. Daryl Morey always said you can't compare the white guy to the white guy. That was one of his rules. And he liked a good cross-sport comparison, but I mean, Denver won a championship a couple of years ago and they just fired their GM this year in season. That pressure kind of increased. That's where Nick Caserio is right now. He hasn't had any pressure. Now you got the coach. You've established yourself. Your floor is higher now. Your floor was very low year 1 with D'Amico. Now your floor is basically, if you don't win the division, then it's a disappointment. That's what it should be. We shouldn't be going back saying, well, look where they were before he got here. Yeah, look where they were. There was little pressure. There was lots of assets. There was the ability to suck while being patient with the process over the results. The right play, by the way. And you have a top 3 pick, so you end up with a Derek Stingley. You have a top 2 pick, so you end up with CJ Stroud. You have extra draft equity, so you're able to trade up for Will Anderson. Y'all could do that. But now's where the pressure starts. He knows this. I'm not breaking any news. This isn't harsh. This is what it is. But this is where the pressure increases on Nick Caserio, and this is where he's going to have to figure stuff out. And the recklessness with contracts is probably going to have to be tweaked a little bit. I just hope a precedent hasn't been set to where every player who comes to Houston knows you're going to be able to get over on Nick Caserio when it comes to negotiating. Neil Hunter could have played the final year of his contract. How much higher was it going to be? If he has the exact same year last year that he has this year, which we'll take, then yeah, I guess that validates it. Maybe he gets more than 1 year. Or you could franchise tag him. You know what the franchise tag is? He's played under the franchise tag. It's the average of the top 5 salaries of the guys at their position. You know why teams use that? It's because you have leverage. So if Danielle Hunter goes out there and has an awesome season this year, you franchise tag him, you're basically paying him the same thing. What you did essentially, and this is the same thing that they did with Dalton Schultz, not even mentioning the Dalton Schultz contract. They didn't want to franchise Dalton Schultz. So what did they do? They franchise tagged him twice. Instead of giving him the 1 year at about $11 million or whatever he ended up getting, which was about the number of the franchise tag, they gave him guaranteed. The 3rd year, that's fake. That's fake. So you don't have to worry about like the Dalton Schultz, another year on his contract. That is fake. Very fake.
This is fake. This fake.
It's a fake?
Yeah, that's Photoshop. That's fake. On my mama, that's fake. On my heart, on my life, my little brother grave, I could die right now. That's fake.
But the first 2 years are fully guaranteed at about that franchise tag price. So you franchise tagged him not once, but twice. How's that looking? It's not great. That's what happens when players get a little bit older sometimes. And I know Danielle Hunter is a way better football player than Dalton Schultz. That's what happens though. Good football players all of a sudden at 30, they start it's hard on the body. It's not great. Franchise tagged him twice. They basically franchise tagged Danielle Hunter before they saw him go out there and play. That doesn't seem like good business to me. It could end up working out, but again, doesn't seem like good business to me. So Nick Caserio is going to have to figure this out. It's a different time. It's a different thing, and we'll see what the heck goes on there. On the super chat,
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Jay Hoover 07 says, watch the Frank Ross video back again. Didn't catch it live. Great show for a great cause and respect. Yeah, it was cool to get to talk to Frank. Shout out to everyone that showed out. We got over $1,000 raised for Frank and his charity. So we appreciate you. Marcus says, Landry, you make me laugh. You the man. Yeah, I mean, I make people laugh. Sometimes it's like, this guy's a dumbass, but hey, it happens. That's what we're here for. But yeah, the contract extension, I think, is interesting. Rolo says Nick is very conservative, so when we do see him give out the bread, it kind of surprises. He gives out the bread like crazy. He gives out more bread than a church during a communion service. That's what's nuts. As soon as he gets it, he tricks it out. He trades for draft picks, and then all of a sudden, he's throwing them out. He's making it rain. Thank God Nick Caserio is a guy who does not. He's not a guy who drinks. He's not a womanizer. I mean, this guy would make a lot of strippers rich. Like if Nick Caserio were not as buttoned up as he was, he would be the economy, the strip club economy in Houston would be booming with Nick Caserio. Because he makes it rain as soon as he gets an extra penny. He makes it rain like crazy. That Nick Caserio. That's what's actually kind of funny about the way that Nick spends this money. He spends it. And he has no hesitation in doing so. But it might really just be during this era of the CJ Stroud, Will Anderson thing. So we'll see what happens, but the pressure is on. It's one thing to be able to function under process over results. But it's different now for Nick. And it's put up or shut up time. He's got to figure it out. And he knows that. And that's something he's going to have to do. But there's a lot of recklessness with the way that Nick Caserio does stuff. There is no doubt about that. Different ball game though. Different ball game from the process over results to now. That's not the case. So he's going to have to figure it out. And you can screw up the offensive line one time. If this is still a problem 3 years from now, multiple offensive line coaches, I can tell you this. I know D'Amico and Caserio are aligned. But D'Amico's staying power, I think, is longer than Caserio's. I don't think they're leaving at the same time. I think we're looking at if worst case scenario, I'll knock on wood. Worst case scenario, D'Amico stays. He basically becomes the football king, and you hire a GM with D'Amico here. That's just where we're at with Caserio. I'm not betting against him. I'm just saying the game has kind of changed, and the pressure, it's definitely increased for old make it rain, Nick Caserio. It is the locker room #1 source for Texans digital content. Hell of a sports day today, by the way. I really enjoyed that old school baseball. Both guys go 8+ innings, 1-0 ball game with the Astros and Rangers. I know the Rangers won, but that was a good baseball game. And then the basketball, we're going to get a Game 7 this weekend. So we got at least one Game 7. And if you're a hockey fan, in case you haven't heard, I think it's like a rule for everyone that watches hockey this time of the year. There's nothing better than playoff hockey. Nothing better. Everybody has to say that. It's weird. It's like there's like some sort of memo, but maybe you're a fan of that too. So yeah, we'll see what it looks like. I don't know that Caserio is really good with money. Indianapolis Colts got in a little trouble. So I didn't really see their video, but I guess the Indianapolis Colts, they put up a video that was Minecraft, I'll be honest, I'm not like a big Minecraft guy. Don't know a lot about it. I saw that Jack Black has a movie. I've seen people play the game. Not my thing. Probably way too difficult, if I'm being completely honest, for me to partake in. But I guess they tried to piggyback off of the popularity of Minecraft, and they put up a video. And in that video, I guess Tyreek Hill got arrested or whatever. They put out a statement and they apologized and they removed their whole schedule video. Here's the statement from the Indianapolis Colts, the Texans rival. Quote, "We removed our schedule release video because it exceeded our rights with Microsoft and included an insensitive clip involving Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill. We sincerely apologize to Microsoft and Tyreek." Okay. All right. Are they thinking about trading for Tyreek Hill? I didn't think it was that bad, was it? They try not to burn the bridge? I don't know. Interesting. I mean, that's a hell of an F up. So you didn't have the copyrights? Like, it's one thing for like a streamer / media type like me or Stutz or something like that. Like, you get, it's not a copyright strike, but like there's some music playing in the background or something, and figure that out. You're the Indianapolis Colts and you're not on top of your copyright with Microsoft during a schedule release, which I don't even want to know how much time was put into that. I would assume a hell of a lot. It wasn't cheap to put that together. They screwed that up. That's pretty goofy. So I don't know what the hell was going on with that. Rock WP says, does the pressure increase for DeMeco if Nick Caley doesn't work out? Yeah. I mean, if you're a defensive minded coach and you establish that there's a problem on offense with multiple coordinators, that's a serious problem. I mean, that's the biggest reservation that a lot of people have when you hire a defensive coach. Is he going to be able to, is the offense going to be able to get the job done? If the offense does get the job done, then you lose the offensive coordinator and then you have to start all over and all that. They didn't lose Bobby Slowick because things were clicking. They've already changed systems. So yeah, I would think we would start having to have a conversation about DeMeco Ryans as an overseer of an offense if it doesn't work. I would say yes. Would I take Tyreek Hill for a fourth? No. We're good. They can figure some stuff out there. Cebu says the Chargers Minecraft video took shots at plenty of players, so not sure why the Colts had to take it down. Yeah, I don't get it. The Tyreek Hill thing, I don't really understand all that, but that kind of happened. Elsewhere in the division, some people are calling it a joke. I think it's actually a break for the Tennessee Titans. The Titans didn't get a single night game, and I've seen some Titans fans say, "Oh, this sucks. This is low." And it's the same thing that Texans fans were saying in 2023. And I talked to Kubiak about this on the stream. I've asked Amico about it. Every coach that I talked to or have talked to and asked about this has said, you would rather, like, as a coach, you would rather have all noon kicks throughout the season. If you can have a set in stone routine when it comes to preparation, recovery, prep, like once that muscle memory kicks in, it's a lovely thing. There's a reason that Thursday night games can get so ugly. There's a reason that when you have to travel and play Sunday night, things can get ugly. So it's actually a break for the Titans, the fact that they don't have a single night game. Now, is it seem like disrespect? I mean, who the hell wants to watch the Titans? I mean, you can't sell me if you are someone who's upset. If you're a Tennessee Titans fan, how are you going to convince anyone that Cam Ward should be some sort of attraction when they didn't even talk about him during the draft. He was the number 1 pick in the draft, and no one even talked about him. So you're telling me he should be on the TV screen on a Monday night, Thursday night, Sunday night football game? The answer is no. They didn't want to see CJ Stroud either in 2023. And quite frankly, I think the schedule kind of kicked the Texans in the nuts last year. They would have much rather had the noon games. Now, players, ego, opportunity to show out, more of an event, more of a spectacle to play primetime. I get that. But for a rookie that's trying to find his way, for a young coach that's trying to, I don't want to say Callahan's coaching for his job. He's got to do something though, right? For him that's trying to get the attention of his squad and get something going, this is a break for them. This isn't anything to even laugh at. I think most coaches are jealous of this. So I think the Titans got a little bit of a break. The Colts are looking dumb as hell, goofy. Titans got a break there. We've talked about this for a while. So I don't think that's the worst thing at all for them. That's fine. Derek says noon Sunday means you're boring and not good. I mean, the Texans were good in 2023. Every year in the league, there's teams that don't have a ton of primetime games that end up making the playoffs. That kind of happens. But yeah, they are boring and not good. But if you're boring and not good, if you can get in a routine, then figure that out. I've seen some boring, not good teams play primetime. See the Giants. Every year they suck. You see them 4 or 5 times, and they suck. And maybe it's not necessarily because they can't get in a routine, but boring and not good. I've seen them on there. God, and I know it's New York for sure. Let's do some revenge angles in 2025. Players, coaches that are going to be looking for revenge.
Looking for revenge.
Let's start with the Texans looking for revenge in Kansas City. I don't know if this is some sort of mental hurdle that needs to be hopped over. I don't know that anyone anticipates this is going to be like a crash course grudge match at some point, but at some point you're going to have to beat the Chiefs and you're going to have to beat the Ravens. This is going to be a game that is hyped up, as well as the Baltimore game. That's part 2 of the looking for revenge. The Texans are going to have to figure something out, and at least a split against one of those teams, I think it could go a really long way. Is it the end of the world if they don't win? I don't know. You're kind of where you are, and then you figure out where you were before the season, and then you kind of figure out what direction you go after that. But it would be nice to get a split against one of those teams. Now, the question is, which one do you think would be most important? Is it the Chiefs? Because they're kind of the class of the AFC. The Chiefs, or is it the Ravens? You're 0-3 against Baltimore in the D'Amico era. You're 0-2 against the Chiefs. And in all those games, those L's against the Chiefs, both of them last year in Kansas City, 2 out of 3 in Baltimore. Which one do you think would go the furthest? Would it be Kansas City or Baltimore? I think we anticipate that those teams are still going to be really, really good. I know sometimes there's like a little bit of a fall off. I think the Chiefs they'll look different offensively, but I think they would be there. I would say probably the Chiefs would go a longer way. Ravens is getting some love as well as Chiefs. I think that's the answer. But yeah, you have gotten your ass kicked by the Ravens. So there is that. Next, revenge.
Looking for revenge.
Jags versus Azeez Al-Shaair. We saw it last year. It was crazy. It was controversial. There was a lot going on. Didn't seem like Jags players were as upset as some media types, but they're going to be looking for revenge against Azeez. Now, does that mean that maybe they find him in coverage? Would probably be in their best interest if they could do that. But that's going to be one of the main storylines. He's going to get booed, rightfully so, and that's going to be a fun little grudge match as well. 2-piece combo with D'Amico Ryans in the revenge.
Looking for revenge.
Josh Allen looking for revenge on D'Amico. That was one of the worst games of his career, especially post-rookie year, post-early Josh Allen. And then D'Amico looking for revenge on Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold had a good game against the Texans last year. He's on a different team. It's going to be a 9:00 game. D'Amico is going to get a crack at Sam Darnold. Don't think D'Amico doesn't have that little, I don't want to say petty, but that competitiveness in him where he remembers these things. He remembers these types of things. And he'll definitely be looking for revenge on Sam Darnold. Mentioned this one yesterday. The Texans secondary looking for revenge on Davante Adams. That was the only time he really looked good last year. Halloween. Hopefully Jalen Petrie doesn't get matched up against him. I kind of feel bad when this happens sometimes because it's going to happen. Like, you can't just hide. If you're going to put a guy in the nickel and he's going to be in the slot all the time, there's going to be times where he's going to be guarding guys he has no business guarding. That's the counter argument about having Jalen Petrie in that role. Now, do you want him lined up outside against Davante Adams? No. But sometimes these quarterbacks, these coordinators, they're able to find situations where you're in a certain defense. They're able to put guys out there and put that player in position to where they have to cover. So, yes, you would like to protect Jalen Petrie as much as possible. You have two corners that you think you can feel comfortable putting on an island against receivers. But if you're going to put someone at nickel and you're going to have him on the field for damn near 100% of the snaps is what Jalen Petrie was playing in that role, there are going to be times where he is going to have to, hopefully in limited reps, hold his own against a good receiver. You can't babysit him the whole time. That's the role. And that's where the pushback comes from some people when it comes to making him the highest paid nickel in the league. You're going to have to do that. It's going to have to happen. And whether it's last year when he left with Aziz having to guard Travis Kelce and that not looking good, it's going to happen whether you're a linebacker, whether you're a safety. And if you're a nickel, there's going to be times where you're going to have to hold your own against someone that you probably have no business guarding man to man. And I think that's going to be something that's going to happen a little bit more often with Jalen Petrie this year than we got accustomed to. So just keep an eye on that. But every time it happens, it's like, how does that happen? It happens because they're playing Jalen Petrie at nickel 100% of the time. And coordinators understand the situation. I wasn't trying to make this a Jalen Petrie thing, but that's that. This one's kind of a joke. This is more of a, hey, he's there now. Steven Sims looking for revenge against the Texans. He's not with the Ravens anymore. He's a Seahawk. That I don't know if he's going to make the team. You never know with Steven Sims. But Steven Sims is a Seahawk. We might get to look at old Steven Sims for a revenge game. Kind of a joke. We talked about the Chiefs. I think this one's legit.
Looking for revenge.
The only reason I put a question mark here is because I don't know if this guy is going to start. But Ersery, and I've told this story a couple of times. I actually asked him about it at his press conference. You could read between the lines and tell he was a little bit more irked than he wants to admit. If he is starting at the time, I'm gonna ask him more about this because I think look, he's a human being, and I would be pissed off if I were him. I would be offended if I were him. If I thought I was the best tackle in the draft, which is what he said, I would be very offended if I were him. And here's the situation if I haven't gotten you hip to it. It is the Locker Room, #1 source for Texans digital content. Shout out to everyone staying up late, and shout out to everyone who watched SNL today. So Ersery's a Kansas City guy. He was wearing the KC hat during the draft. That was his thing. He grew up in Kansas City. His family's from Kansas City, and he is obviously an offensive lineman. He's an offensive tackle, and he had a draft party. And during that draft party, they thought he was going to be a late first, early second, whatever, day 2 draft pick. And he watched the draft with family. A lot of them had KC gear on. He had the KC hat. And the Kansas City Chiefs, we all know they need offensive line help. They drafted someone at his position on the final day, in the final minutes of the first round of the draft. And he had to watch that with a KC hat on and a bunch of fans who I would assume family and friends that would have loved for him to be able to block for Patrick Mahomes and play for the Kansas City Chiefs. The local news was there, the Kansas City local news, their top stations, they were covering it, much like Jason Bristol. They covered Cam Ward's family draft party because he's a local guy. They covered it, and they caught the disappointment of not getting drafted on day one. And we all know what happens after round one. You go to sleep. You imagine that? Could you imagine that? You're a Kansas City fan. You're rocking a KC, and it was a throwback Royals hat, having a draft party, wanting to go first round, and you watch them take someone at your position. It's not like they took someone different. They took someone at your position on the offensive line, and you had to watch that, and then you had to go to sleep. And he said he didn't sleep that night. Not getting drafted as a whole, period, like, will cause you to lose sleep because it's basically Christmas. It's disappointment. It's basically like double Christmas. It's basically like not getting anything for Christmas and then waiting the next day for Christmas when your name's called. So he had both those emotions. Then you sprinkle in that the local Kansas City news is there and the Kansas City Chiefs draft someone at your position, and he ends up with the Texans. Now, I think he's one of the good quotes, but when the local news channel asked him about the Chiefs, he was very short. He said, I'll see them in the playoffs. So if this guy plays, he is going to want to stick it to the Kansas City Chiefs, and he is going to want to stick it to the Kansas City Chiefs for the rest of his life. I watched that Tom Brady, the quarterbacks that got taken ahead of him. San Francisco took some project quarterback. Tom Brady, they grew up season ticket holders of the 49ers. He always held on to that. Ersery is obviously not Tom Brady, but my God, that's got to be a lot. So I think that's a revenge game. It just kind of depends whether or not he plays. That's crazy, though. I mean, that would suck. I feel bad for him. I asked him about it. You know, he's kind of, you know, and I asked him if he finally got the sleep. He said, yeah, he got some, he got some sleep. Ja'Cory Davis says, to be fair, Josh Simmons was the better prospect. It was just the injury. Pretty big injury, though, if we're being honest. And that's not, I mean, do you think that's how Ariante Ersery is thinking? You think he's thinking, okay, I'm in Kansas City. I got the Kansas City news. Well, you know, he's got a really significant injury that there's a lot of examples of guys not recovering from. But, you know, he's the better prospect. There's no way that he's thinking like that. Can't be. Going back to the Ravens thing before we continue the revenge tour of 2025. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Subscribe, like, right along, all that with myself and Stutz. On the Ravens Chiefs, six strings bent says you definitely feel better about the team if you beat the Ravens, but you feel better deep down in your soul if you beat Mahomes because of all the flop and BS. This ain't soccer, much more satisfying. Yeah, it was shameful this year what Mahomes did. Pretty tough. Pretty tough. Why would we get him so soon if he don't play? I don't know. Why'd they do that with Blake Fisher last year? It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's an end-all, be-all type of thing, but they did the same thing with Blake Fisher last year. They're willing to draft tackles and not play him immediately. So I guess that would kind of answer that. On the super chat, Michael Casey has a comment.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
It's the Ravens. If they can play bully ball with them, then they can do it against anyone. Yeah, the Ravens and the Ravens are knocking on that door. I think there's like different levels of this. Like, I don't think there's a regular season win that Baltimore or Buffalo could have that would make them feel good or be something that they could carry. I mean, I know each week is different, and I'm sure you feel good, and I'm sure the character of your football team and the identity of your football team can be shaped by certain wins. But there's not like if the Ravens beat the Chiefs in the regular season, they don't care. If they beat the Bills, they don't care. These teams have been kind of knocking on that door for a long time to where there's only justification, validation, really importance in the playoffs. That's really what matters. The Texans aren't quite there yet. The Texans aren't there yet. They haven't been able to really beat the elite. They beat Buffalo, and they were able to do that at home We don't have to break down what went down there and why it happened or whatever. Who cares? They beat Buffalo. But that wasn't enough to make you just feel like, okay, this team can beat anyone. That was just another dub. You're 0-5 combined against these two teams. You're trying to get to that area. I do think a regular season win for the Texans against either one of those, I do think it holds a little bit more weight than the other teams that are in a tier above you. I would say that. But yeah, the Mahomes flopping got a lot of people a little bit worked up. More revenge for the Texans in 2025 and the Texans opponents.
Looking for revenge.
The Chargers are looking for revenge versus D'Amico and company. That was an embarrassing loss that they suffered. They were a popular pick as well. The Chargers were the betting favorite. There was bets going in on the Chargers. Now, a lot of the smart guys, they don't bet against home teams in the playoffs. Like a lot of the smart money doesn't necessarily go on the Chargers, but as far as like I think the average general public, I think the Chargers were a pretty popular pick against the Texans. And the Texans got kind of flat late last year. So Chargers, I mean, that was embarrassing. We'll see how they handle it, but they're going to be looking for revenge. We don't know when this game's going to be. It could be flexed out. It's TBD, like all the week 17, week 18, but they're definitely going to be looking for revenge. What about Christian Kirk? Christian Kirk.
Captain Kirk, can you save me? Captain Kirk, I want to have your baby.
Christian Kirk looking for revenge against the Jags. They just said bye-bye to you. They had no use for Christian Kirk. They got rid of him, and they've moved on. They got Travis Hunter, and despite the success that Christian Kirk had during Trevor Lawrence playing some pretty damn good ball, they said bye-bye. We're upgrading. We're going with Travis Hunter. Probably a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. I think he'll downplay it. I don't think he's like a smack talker that's going to go all in and embrace it. But Christian Kirk revenge game for sure. Now, are we reaching here? Watson looking for revenge against the Chiefs. You needed all these wide receiver depth. I was right there for you. I'll say no on that. But that's the final one. Although D'Amico Ryans did call him one of the most consistent players in the NFL. I will say that as long as he's here. D'Amico did say that. D'Amico said he's one of the most consistent players in the NFL. I was a little bit surprised that he said that. So let's see how that goes with the Texans. Those are the revenge games. Nick Caserio pressure, Danielle Hunter pressure. Tomorrow we got some stuff to get into on SNL. We got one NBA game tomorrow. Yes. So we'll be to enjoy that. And the baseball is going to continue as well. So business picking up a little bit. On the soup, H-Town's Ultimate, the cat with the cowboy hat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
How do you see the running back room for the Texans playing out? Much love, my brother. Much love to you as well. You know how I am about the running back depth. I think it's bad. There's been talk that Joe Mixon's banged up. The conspiracy theory on the streets. Don't know how serious, but in the underground, and I don't touch everything in the underground, but there's been enough talk to where you wonder what is wrong with Joe Mixon and what's going on. I mean, they put out the video of the running backs. You didn't really see Joe Mixon. Foot might be hurt. He might have a accessory on his foot from what people are saying. Don't know how serious it is. But yeah, I mean, you're relying on Joe Mixon, and this could just be a small thing, but behind him, Nick Caserio said it himself. He went up there and he said, and we already knew this, but he said it himself. He said, Dare Gumbawale is basically a special teams guy, and Dameon Pierce has value as a kick returner. And then you have Woody Marks, who's a guy who receives the ball out of the backfield, and then they say you have 6 on the roster. Do you really? Like, they got 6, 7 on the roster now. Do they really? Like, are you counting on J.J. Taylor, British Brooks? British Brooks was basically moved to fullback / tight end last year. He's kind of a special teams guy. So the running back depth isn't great. I could see them bringing in another body free agency. I do want to see what Taylor looks like and how Kaylee chooses to use him. I'm intrigued by Woody Marks. They traded up for him. He's a little bit bigger than I thought he would be. But I would check it out. Would I roll the dice on JK? I like JK. He's had a couple of injuries, but I mean, it's kind of Akers like, right? At this point, if you can bring in JK as kind of a touch-up guy. Yeah. I mean, they need someone who you don't want to go into a game where Damian Pierce and Dare Ogunbowale are your options to run between the tackles. That's kind of a problem. And I don't really fault them. I know I wanted to draft a running back. They kind of got in no man's land in the draft where they went with Higgins and then Henderson. At that point, Henderson and Judkins were gone. So you were, the value at running back was done. Just kind of beggars can't be choosers. And they really addressed the wide receiver position. But the running back depth isn't great. We'll see what happens with Woody Marks. I'm not expecting a ton. But yeah, there's very, very healthy skepticism about the running back room. And we talked about Danielle Hunter. Anything can happen at that age, in the NFL. At the position that Joe Mixon plays, man, like it can happen too, as well, and it can happen quickly. So we'll see. Wouldn't bet against him. I would like to at least give him a little bit more opportunity for perhaps rest a little bit. So we'll see what that looks like. Yeah, KC did draft Brashard Smith. We were big fans of him here. I am interested to see what he looks like there. Anytime they go to Kansas City, you automatically get kind of intrigued just by how Andy Reid will try to maximize him. Although I thought Sky Moore was going to be way better, and he has not been. Subscribe, like, right along. Offseason continues. Revenge, 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 pressure, pressure, pressure. Those are the words of the night. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. All love. Appreciate y'all for coming through.
Landlock, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not 2. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number 1. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.